Hi guys, welcome back to Custer's 7th Cavalry in 7 minutes. Today we're going to talk about the life of Edward Settle Godfrey, who served in the Army for 44 years. That's a lot to tackle in a short amount of time, so let's see if we can do it. Godfrey was born on October 9th, 1843 in Ohio. When he was 18, he enlisted with the 21st Ohio Volunteer Infantry to fight in the Civil War on the side of the Union. After Godfrey's brief enlistment finished, he returned to school, became a teacher, and also worked as a typesetter for a local paper. But what he really wanted was a military career. He entered West Point in 1863 and graduated in July 1867. Here's an excerpt of one of Godfrey's letters, which offers insight into the long-standing rift within the 7th Cavalry. As the time approached for my graduation from West Point, I determined to apply for assignment to the 7th Cavalry, the first choice because Custer was my ideal of a cavalry general. My classmate Johnson's first choice was the 7th Cavalry because he had served under General A.J. Smith in the Civil War. During the winter of 1867 to 68, we were stationed at Fort Leavenworth. One evening, when I was shaving, Johnson was in my quarters. He said to me, "Gotti, what are you going to do about this Custer business? It looks as though we have got to take sides with one or the other." I turned on him, razor in hand, and said, "Johnson, I'm not going to side with either faction. It's all happened before we joined, and I can't see that it's any of our business to take sides." He pondered a while and replied, "Well, if that's your decision, I'll stand with you." I replied that it was my decision to keep out of it. The result was that I was not in the confidence of either side, but caught hell from the anti-Custerites. Godfrey's first real fight with the Indians occurred on November 27, 1868, at the Battle of the Washita. He, with 2 platoons, was sent to charge through Chief Black Kettle's Southern Cheyenne village and capture the pony herd. He did this and sent one platoon back with the horses, while he and the other platoon chased fleeing Cheyenne. It was Godfrey who first glimpsed the many villages beyond and realized the enormity of the enemy. He heard firing he thought may have been Major Joel Elliott with 19 men, who had also gone after escaping warriors. Godfrey and his platoon retreated slowly in alternate lines, holding off the gathering braves. He did not lose one soldier. Godfrey then reported to Custer, told him he may have heard Elliott's fight, but Custer thought he was mistaken, as other troops had been fighting in that direction. Custer's decision to not immediately look for Elliott would haunt the 7th Cavalry. The Washita campaign didn't finish until spring of 1869, when the 7th tracked down the remaining Southern Cheyenne in Texas. There, and without resorting to bloodshed, Custer forced them to free 2 white women captives, as well as to move into an Indian agency. Godfrey participated in both the Yellowstone campaign in 1873, as well as the Black Hills expedition of 1874. At the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Godfrey was the K Company commander. He was with Captain Frederick Bentine's column, which had been sent on a scout to the left, away from the main body of troops. By the time Bentine's column met up with Major Marcus Reno, Reno's men had already been routed from the valley, and Custer's column was engaged in a fight with the combined Lakota and Cheyenne. After the attempt to join Custer halted at Weir Point, the 7th Cav began a hasty retreat when Indian warriors surged toward them. Godfrey and only 30 men defended the withdrawal, much as he had done at the Washita. When his men began to bunch up, Godfrey made them hold the line, threatening to shoot any man that ran. Lieutenant Luther Hare later said, "I always thought this moment saved the command." At the Reno Court of Inquiry in Chicago in 1879, Godfrey was reputed to be the only officer who did not indulge in the social events Major Reno organized. Godfrey's testimony was also the most damning, saying he was not, quote, particularly impressed with the major, and that Reno suffered from, quote, nervous timidity during the fight. Reno had said he did not hear firing from Custer's section of the battlefield, but Godfrey said the firing was heard by all the men, including Godfrey himself, who was part deaf. Years later, in a letter emphatically asserting that a monument at the Little Bighorn should not mention Major Reno, Godfrey was less diplomatic. He wrote, "My protest is based on Reno's cowardly panic retreat from the valley, whereby some 29 officers and men were sacrificed to his panic fear and to his inert conduct after the junction of Benteen's battalion." Godfrey would also write a detailed article about the Little Bighorn fight for Century magazine. But there's more to Godfrey than the Little Bighorn. On September 30th, 1877, Godfrey was with 3 companies of the 7th under the command of General Nelson Miles in a fight with the Nez Perce in the Bear Paw Mountains. Godfrey was a captain at the time. During the cavalry charge, his horse was shot and Godfrey was injured. Though he couldn't use his right arm, he got on another horse and continued fighting. Then he was shot, the bullet coming so close to his spine the doctor could see his backbone. Miles Moylan was shot in the leg. Owen Hale was not as lucky as his fellow captains. He was shot in the throat and died. All 3 first sergeants and a sergeant major were also killed. Of the 115 men of the 7th that fought there were 50 casualties. Godfrey was awarded a Medal of Honor for his actions that day. Then Godfrey taught at West Point from 1879 to 1883. Sadly, at the end of his tenure there, his wife Mary died. She is buried at the West Point Cemetery, not far from George Custer. On June 25th, 1886, Godfrey attended the 10th anniversary of the Little Bighorn fight. He would go on to attend both the 40th and 50th anniversaries as well. In 1890, Godfrey, with the 7th Cavalry, was involved in the Wounded Knee Massacre. Though he himself was exonerated from any wrongdoing, there were questions about whether soldiers of his company had fired upon and killed unarmed noncombatants. This would be a dark cloud over Godfrey's life and career. In September 1905, more tragedy struck when Godfrey's son, Guy Charles Moore, an Army captain and surgeon at the time, committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. Godfrey's later career would bring him to Cuba and the Philippines. He was finally promoted to brigadier general right before he retired in 1907 after 44 years in the Army. It wasn't enough. In 1917, when he was 72, Godfrey tried to volunteer to fight in World War I, but his request was denied. At the age of 89, suffering from an enlarged heart, fractured ribs from a fall, and pneumonia, Godfrey took to his bed. He began talking about the 2 women captives the 7th Cavalry had saved in 1869 after Custer had ordered U.S. troops not to resort to violence in the Cheyenne village. Godfrey may have wished that this had been the order at Wounded Knee as well. Suddenly Godfrey blurted from his deathbed, "Not a shot to be fired." These were his last intelligible words. Brigadier General Edward Settle Godfrey died a few days later on April 1st, 1932. He was buried with full military honors in Arlington Cemetery in Washington, D.C. His second wife, Ida, died in 1941 and was buried with him. Thanks, guys. Thanks especially to Dale Cosman, as usual, for his help with these videos, especially for sending me the wonderful 2001 winter issue of the Research Review that had an incredible article by Judge William Moody about the life of General Godfrey. I recommend you guys check it out. Please like, subscribe. I'm going to have more of these coming out soon. Click your notification bell. Thanks so much, guys. And if you like the hat, my friend Jonathan Wallace just sent it to me. I have a link in the comment section. All right, hope to see you soon. Thanks, guys.